So, big night.
Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, and how the f do you pronounce this?
So as that blurb states, Saturday Night tells the story of the debut episode of Saturday Night Live, which most people in the UK and here in Scotland probably won't know anything about. But more on that later. Basically, this movie tells the story of that first episode, run, the hour and a half, the 90 minutes leading up to the broadcast. Will the show go to air, or will the network pull the plug and just air reruns of The Tonight Show? Will all the actors remember their lines? Will John Belushi even turn up? Will George Carlin host and host well? All of these kind of questions and drama is what the movie is essentially about. Will the show go to air? Will they pull it off? Yeah, that's the plot of the movie. That's the story of the movie. So there's not much else to get into beyond that. So there's a lot of talented characters in this movie. It's funny to kind of define and put names to them, because you've got Gabriel LaBelle playing young Lorne Michaels. Lorne Michaels being the kind of, I think, the creator, showrunner, the genesis of Saturday Night Live. You've got Corey Michael Smith playing a young Chevy Chase. You've got Dylan O'Brien playing a young Dan Aykroyd, and that's just to name a few of the characters / actors in this movie. What I will say, talking about actors, is the guy that plays Chevy Chase, Corey Michael Smith. He was definitely a standout for me, but I'll touch on that again a bit later. It almost plays out in real time as well. I don't think it's like exactly technically in real time, but it's very, very close to it. The movie itself only lasts about 90 minutes, and then the credits on top of that. It's a series of single takes, of one-shots, oneers, I think they call them in the biz. It's not one 90-minute shot, but it's like a series of, I don't know, maybe a dozen unbroken shots that are kind of like carefully stitched together. On that note, there's a video that Edith Bowman did on her soundtracking channel where she interviewed the director, Jason Reitman, about that, and he talks about that, so I'll link to that below. That's quite interesting. But yeah, it plays out almost in real time, kind of like an episode of 24, and also kind of like that Johnny Depp, Christopher Walken movie, Nick of Time, from back in the 90s, which I think is a weird, underrated movie. That was quite a good movie. So obviously you've got all the stress of trying to put this live television show together, but it's not just any live television show. It's a cabaret show, it's a variety show. There's musical performances, there's sketch comedy, there's stand-up, there's a whole bunch of things like that, and they're going out live. So there's a fair bit of stress going on behind the scenes. In an odd way, it kind of reminded me of the Michael Keaton movie The Paper, but also more recently it reminded me of the Adam Sandler movie Uncut Gems, with the stress and kind of like the almost real-time element of it. Just there's less violence in this than there is in Uncut Gems. If you've not seen Uncut Gems, that is a bloody brilliant movie. Definitely check it out. I think that's on Netflix. The look of it is quite good as well. The cinematography, it's got a 70s vibe to it, because it's set in the 70s. I'm assuming it's shot on digital, but it's got a very filmic, gritty, fine film grain, fly on the wall kind of documentary feel to it. So that helps sell the idea that you're watching this in the 70s, and it's almost as if the camera is the eyes of a passive participant in it, like an assistant to Lorne Michaels. You're there in amongst it, following him about and walking with him and seeing things almost as he sees them. So that really kind of helps ground the viewer and helps place the viewer in the action. That combined with, like I said, the kind of 70s film grain look to it, that really helps sell the concept and sell the setting of the movie in a really good way. It's got quite a unique sounding score as well, kind of like, I don't know, like almost jazz piano-ish. I read online that John Batiste actually recorded the score live on set. I think that was on the IMDb trivia page. I'm not sure how much truth there is to that, or how much kind of like context there is to that, but if that's true, at least in some way, that's quite mind-boggling, but very much in keeping with the feel of the movie and of the actual show, Saturday Night Live, as well, I'm assuming, because a 90-minute live comedy sketch variety show has to be chaos. As I said, the cast is very good in this. The two standouts are the lead, Gabriel LaBelle as Lorne Michaels, but also for me, as I mentioned earlier, Corey Michael Smith as a young Chevy Chase. does a brilliant job. He's not doing like an impersonation of Chevy Chase, but he somehow manages to like catch the essence and the vibe of Chevy Chase without it being like a caricature or just like a copy of him. He doesn't look entirely dissimilar to Chevy Chase. That obviously helps. But yeah, he does a really good job of kind of just portraying the essence of Chevy Chase. There's one scene in it where he announces, live from New York, it's Saturday night. And when he did that, it was almost like Chevy Chase was like there in spirit or like, in his body projecting that. That sounds weird. But yeah, anyway, that guy is really good as a young Chevy Chase. J.K. Simmons has a kind of extended cameo in this as well. He's been in lots of Jason Reitman's movies from Juno and whatnot. So J.K. Simmons has a small role, but quite a big role, and you'll know what I mean if you've seen the movie. He definitely makes his presence felt in the 5 minutes of screen time that he has. And it's always good to see J.K. Simmons in a movie. I think any movie he's in, he automatically raises the quality of that movie at least a little bit. Is the movie any good? Yes. I actually did quite enjoy this movie. It's a tough one to kind of quantify, I think. So the cultural impact of the show Saturday Night Live is very well documented. There's many, many, many famous actor, writer, comedians who got their start in Saturday Night Live and then became megastars. Far too many to list here. A lot of filmmakers have talked about the impact and influence that Saturday Night Live has had on them and on their career. Kevin Smith, off the top of my head, has mentioned on more than one occasion how influential SNL was for him and his career. But ultimately, the show Saturday Night Live, and therefore the movie Saturday Night, it's geo-locked to America or to North America. Kind of like a Netflix account. There's a block there. As far as I'm aware, SNL never aired in the UK. I don't know about the rest of Europe. I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember Saturday Night Live, SNL, ever being broadcast on television in the UK. These days, it's probably streamed on whatever network streaming service it has. I'm not sure. But with it being a live show at 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday night in New York, like with the time zone, I mean, that would make it like 5:30 a.m. or something in the UK. So they'd have to do a rerun of it like the next day or something. Anyway, I don't think the logistics of the time zones is the only reason that it didn't come over kind of across the pond successfully. I don't think they ever tried. That's something that I think is going to hurt this movie. In a weird way, it's kind of like, it's the reverse effect of the Robbie Williams biopic Better Man, which hasn't done great at the box office in the States, but is a really good movie. Nobody in the States knows who Robbie Williams is, but everyone in the UK does. Nobody in the UK really knows about SNL, but everybody in America does. So it's just one of those things where it's so ingrained in American culture and North American culture, but it's just not in the UK at all. So as much as this is a good movie, I don't reckon it's going to do well at the box office here in the UK. It did get a cinema release, but it's very limited. Like, I think there was only 2 showings the day that I saw it here at Cineworld. It's a good movie, but the brand awareness of SNL just doesn't exist here in Scotland and in the UK. So that's definitely going to hurt it, I think, at the box office, which is a shame because it is a good movie. Ironically, the fact that I know very little about SNL, I think, helped me enjoy the movie even more. Like, if I knew the ins and outs of SNL, or if I was, not quite old enough to remember the first broadcast, but if I was, I think, I don't know, there's something about watching a movie like this and not really, even though it's based on a true story, there's something about watching it and not really knowing the story that keeps you engaged a little bit more. Maybe not a little bit more, but it kept me engaged in a different way than if I had been aware of the ins and outs of SNL, of Saturday Night Live. So that's an interesting one. So I'm going to go with 7 out of 10 for Saturday Night. It is actually a really good movie. It's like I said, it reminded me of The Paper and of Uncut Gems. It zips along at a good pace. Like, it's only 90 minutes long, which is nice. Not every movie has to be 2.5, 3.5 hours long. It's got great performances. It looks great. The fine film grain texture to it is really, as I said, places you in that time zone. I just fear because of the lack of awareness of what SNL is, it just won't do well at the box office here in the UK. I'm not sure how it did in the States at the box office, but I can't see it doing well here in the UK. Yeah. So, 7 out of 10 for Saturday Night. But I'm curious, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're in the UK, are you even aware of what Saturday Night Live is? Have you ever seen an episode of it? And would that encourage you or discourage you for going to see this movie? Let me know in the comments below. That'll be interesting. And I'll catch you in the next one.